Chapter 7 of The Mystery of Cabin Island by Franklin W. Dixon. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 7. The Other Iceboat. Chet Morton and Biff Hooper, it appeared, had not missed Christmas either. Their parents had surprised them just as Mr. and Mrs. Hardy had surprised Frank and Joe, and when the lads met at the boathouse half an hour later, their preparations for an immediate departure were somewhat hindered by joyous discussion of the presents each boy had received. Among Biff's gifts was an iceboat from his father, over which the lad was ecstatic. "Well, let's go," shouted Chet finally. "We can talk it all over when we get to Cabin Island." They clambered into the iceboats, Chet getting into Biff's new craft with the proud owner. "Ready?" cried Frank. "Ready! We're off!" The boats glided out onto the ice of the bay. There was a stiff breeze blowing, and the boys anticipated a quick run to the island. The wind was strong, and the sky was clear. The two boats sped alongside one another, their sails billowing. The city was swiftly left behind, and the open bay lay ahead. The winter air brought the flush of health to the boys' cheeks. Once in a while they waved to one another. The shores sped past. Frank, at the tiller of the Hardy boys' craft, swung the boat around so that it got the full benefit of the breeze, and it forged ahead, leaving the other behind. This meant a race, so Biff brought his boat around with the wind and soon managed to overhaul his rivals. A vagrant breeze gave him the advantage for a while, and he gained steadily while the Hardy boys, to their chagrin, lagged behind. But the breeze soon changed. Biff found himself running against the wind before he realized it. The Hardy boys' craft scudded swiftly across the ice, overtook him, then shot across his bows. Frank and Joe maintained their lead from then on, taking advantage of every change in the wind, and in due time they came within sight of the dark bulk of Cabin Island looming against the distant line of the shore. Joe stood up and waved his arms in excitement. There was an answering wave from Chet in the speeding craft to the rear. Frank swung the boat toward the south, down into the cove. They drew closer to the island. "Our friend Hanley can't bother us now," laughed Frank. "We have full authority. It was a mighty lucky thing for us that we mentioned Cabin Island to Mr. Jefferson. I wonder what Hanley was doing on the island anyway." "I'll bet he was up to no good," said Joe. "Well, we won't worry about him. He won't trouble us." However, Joe was destined to be mistaken. The iceboat sped across the glassy surface, drawing closer and closer to Cabin Island. Frank, peering ahead, suddenly gave an exclamation of surprise. "Looks as if someone is here ahead of us." "Where?" Frank pointed to the little bay where they had landed on their previous visit. A white-sailed object was clearly outlined against the dark background of trees. "Another iceboat!" Joe gazed at the strange craft in consternation. "I wonder what that means." "We'll soon find out. Somehow that boat looks familiar to me," said Frank as he steered toward the bay. As they came closer, they saw that the other boat was deserted. Frank could not escape the conviction that he had seen the boat before. Slowly he veered around until they ran alongside, within 100 yards of the bay. Then he nodded. "I knew it," he said quietly. "That's the boat Ted Carson and Ike Nash were in the other day," exclaimed Joe. "There's something queer about this business. I wondered why they were so close to Cabin Island when we met them. I'll bet they were coming here to get Hanley." "Perhaps you're right. What shall we do now, Joe?" "Scout around a bit. We may learn something." Frank did not go toward the bay. Instead, he guided the boat around the arm of the island. The boys signaled back to Biff and Chet, indicating that they were to follow. "It beats me why Tad and Ike should be here unless they have some connection with this fellow Hanley," said Frank. "And I don't see why Hanley should be here at all. He hasn't bought the island yet. According to Mr. Jefferson, he has no business here. We'll run around the island once and see what's what." The Hardy boys did not have long to wait. Circling the end of the island, they came to a sheltered nook where they decided to land. "We can leave the boats here and go up toward the cabin on foot," decided Frank. "If there is anybody here, we'll have a better chance of taking them by surprise." They put into the little bay and then waited until Chet and Biff, in the other boat, came up. "What's the matter?" asked Chet when their craft came to rest. "Who owns that other boat?" "That's what we want to find out. We figured it would be best to lie low until we find what's going on around here," Frank told him. "Good idea," approved Biff. "That boat belongs to Tad Carson and Ike Nash. I thought the best plan would be to land here on the quiet and then go up to the cabin. They have no right here, and I'd like to know what they're up to." The boys alighted from the boats. There was a sloping hillside before them leading to a clump of evergreens. The snow was unbroken. Frank took the lead and advanced up the slope. The others followed. When Frank reached the evergreens, he paused and looked about. To his right, he could see another bay farther down the shore, and there he spied a small boathouse. The boathouse itself would not have attracted his attention so greatly had it not been for the fact that he saw a distinct line of footprints in the snow leading toward the rear door. Frank had his wits about him sufficiently to notice that the footprints were those of two people and that they led toward the boathouse, not away from it. "Somebody's there now," he commented briefly. He led the way toward the boathouse. The others trudged silently after him. Near the little building, Frank suddenly stopped and raised his finger to his lips. He had heard voices. With renewed caution, the boys stole forward. In the lee of the boathouse, they halted. Frank listened. He had heard the murmur of voices from some distance back. He pressed close to the boards. "Well," he heard a voice saying, "it's none of my business, so I'm not going to worry about it." Then there was a second voice. "I'm not worrying. I'm just wondering. We have our money. That's all that should concern us." "Nothing wrong in wondering what he's up to, is there?" said the other. "I think there must be something important around that old cabin." Frank turned to the others. "Tad Carson and Ike Nash," he whispered. He turned to the wall of the boathouse again. "I tell you, he wouldn't pay us for bringing him out to Cabin Island so often unless there was something behind it," Ike Nash was saying. "That's all right. What if there is something behind it?" returned Carson. "It's none of our affair. He pays us. That's all we want. If Hanley cares to spend his time prowling around this island, why should we worry, as long as we get our money?" The Hardy Boys and their chums glanced at one another in surprise. Hanley! The man who had ordered them away from Cabin Island on their previous visit. The man whom Elroy Jefferson had said wanted to buy the place. "I don't see why he won't let us go up to the cabin with him," grumbled Nash. "What does he want to keep secret from us?" "That's his business," snapped Tad Carson. "If you go asking questions, then you'll just spoil everything. Leave well enough alone." "Well, what are we going to do now? That's what I want to know." "Stay where we are. He told us to leave the ice boat and wait here until he came down from the cabin. Those are his orders. We get paid for obeying orders." "Fine place to stay in. What did you expect? A palace? We'll stay where we are. He said he wouldn't be long. He's been up in that cabin for half an hour already. What's keeping him?" "I don't know, and I don't care," snapped Tad Carson. "He's paying us to wait here for him, and we'll wait." Without a word, Frank Hardy turned away and motioned to the other boys. In the deep snow, they moved silently from the boathouse. "Hanley's up at the cabin now," said Frank when they were beyond earshot. "I think we'd better go up and find out what he's doing." "Right," approved Chet. In single file, the boys went back up the slope in the direction of the cabin at the north end of the island. End of Chapter 7.